Niblets, and a fantastic gentleman I met in 2011 at a startup weekend. He has been huge in the startup community. He is the host of Everywhere Now competition. It's an annual competition for conference for entrepreneurs. So let's give a big hand for Nick Tippmann. All right, Nick.
Thank you very much, Seamus. I'm so glad to be here. Having me down, it's been awesome. I'm really glad to be here. So show of hands, how many of you guys, was this your first time with the startup weekend or first time involved in anything like this? Awesome, that's great. Looks like you got a healthy mix of new people and returners, which is great. So you guys have a good time this weekend then? You guys get the value out of it? Awesome. This is startup weekend is actually something very close to me. I kind of got my start in the whole startup world at a startup weekend in Bloomington back in 2011. So really these connections and these people that you meet at these type of events really can help propel you, and maybe it's not the business that you end up working on this weekend, but the connections and the people and the community building is really what matters and really is what is important here. So I'm going to talk to you about 8 building blocks to go from startup zero to startup hero. Really it's just a couple tips and things that have helped me throughout my journey over the past 2.5 years really in this whole entrepreneurial world. And first off, I'm going to start with a little background about myself. So I'm originally from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I've kind of been an entrepreneur my whole life, 4th generation entrepreneur. Went to Indiana University, studied entrepreneurship and marketing. My senior year is when I went to my first startup weekend. I had an idea back then. I actually ended up dropping out of school with about a semester left, working on my startup. That one actually didn't turn out too well, but it was all right. I got a bunch of good experience, met mentors, met investors, learned a whole bunch, and really learned how to learn and what were the right things to learn. I mean, my IU education is amazing and kind of gave me the background and the building blocks to kind of go where I wanted to, but really there's a whole nother world of specific startup technology businesses that is kind of different than what they would teach you at a more traditional entrepreneurship major. So really I just spent about 6 months after I took my leave of absence of school learning and reading as much stuff as possible. That's one of the building blocks that I didn't put in there, is really just read as much stuff as you can. There's amazing blogs and books about startups and entrepreneurship online, and those have been really key in helping me learn, and I think they're great resources as well. And so after I left IU, I went to the Brandery Accelerator, which is a startup accelerator, which gives you a $20,000 investment for a 6% equity in your company, and really the big value they provide is connecting you with mentors and investors in your space. So the Brandery is a top 15 ranked accelerator in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is where I live now. The startup that I was with there was called Impulsity, so it was a mobile application to help you find events around you. So you'd open it up and it'd show you all the events going on around you. So I was with that company for about 6 months. It was a really great experience at the Brandery. Got to meet a bunch of really smart people, made a bunch of great connections. Really the camaraderie of going into one of those programs, you have 10 other companies kind of doing the same thing. And that's really some of the best value that I got out of that, is really the peer connections of other people kind of in the same situation as you, learning and kind of going through and helping each other, having a lot of the same issues and problems. So the Brandery was a great experience for myself. What I did realize there though, was I had a good time and could help out with marketing, which is what I was doing there, marketing and user growth, but I really had the itch to go and start my own company again. So the experience that I got from there, we went in with just basically a prototype of a product, ended up raising a little over $250,000 and launching the product, and kind of got to see putting my mobile app in the App Store, and I think we ended up getting up to about 100,000 users by the time that I left. It was really a great experience, but my co-founder at Niblets had kind of been bugging me and trying to get me to jump ship to come run Niblets with them for quite some time. And so in January of last year, I kind of decided the time was ready and made the jump ship over to start running Niblets. So Niblets is an online publication focused on startups and entrepreneurship. So it's a little different going from being like a product, typical technology-based startup where you're building a product for solving a problem, really to what now Niblets is a media company. So it's a little different, but really the same focus and a lot of the same principles go into effect. And my time throughout the brandery and really just meeting people in the community, that the picture up there with me and Mark Cuban was last year at the Super Bowl. I really just found on social media, he said, where should he watch the Shark Tank party at? I had one of my mentors who was instrumental in kind of reaching out to him. We were like, hey, you're in Indy, we're in Indy, let's throw a party. So got a hold of him on Twitter, said, hey, we're gonna throw a party for you, the Shark Tank premiere party at the Westin Hotel. Just come up to the bar, and we threw this impromptu party where we had about 100 people come out and had Mark Cuban come out. I got to end up having dinner with him and watch the Shark Tank with him, and he met with about 20 different entrepreneurs that came up from IU who are also entrepreneurship major, and he was just real grateful, helpful guy. But it's really just kind of being opportunistic about those type of opportunities that's really kind of helped me move forward. So now I'll get into the 8 building blocks. So this is you now, Startup Zero, and where you want to be as Startup Hero. So it's a little fun there. And first, you got to start off with the right mindset. So you really kind of have to want to do it for the right reasons. And I like to talk about intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation here. You really got to want to build and start something. I know people talk a lot about passion, and Mark Cuban is actually one person that says you don't need to be passionate about what you're doing. You need to find something that can make you money. And you also technically, or you end up becoming passionate about it. But passion alone isn't going to make you successful. But having the right mindset, knowing what you're going into and what you're trying to get out of it. Know if you're trying to build a next billion-dollar company, that maybe making a couple $1 million isn't going to be successful for you. To whereas the next person, a couple $1 million is like beyond any wildest dreams of what they thought their startup could be. So really having the right mindset and just knowing that it's going to be hard, not easy, it doesn't happen overnight. You might read it, you might watch whatever the Facebook movie is and think that it all just happens, but they don't show the 12-hour daily grind over 3 to 4 years that it really takes to build something like that. So just go into it with the right mindset and have the right expectation. Next is the startup community. So you guys have already kind of probably seen some of the benefit of being involved in the startup community with the event like this. I really can't even begin to explain how much value getting connected and going to events like this and getting out in the community and meeting people like David and meeting people like Jamie have really helped me kind of grow where I am and make the connections I needed. It happened from connections just being at events that got me into the brandery. I mean, it's just serendipitous meetings and people that really, you'll find, really just want to help each other out. And a lot of you, kind of what I was talking about with the peer group at the brandery, they're going through a lot of the same struggles and have the same issues. So reach out to them, connect with them, and you'll find that they're a lot of help and you'll get a lot of value out of it. So keep going to events like this. Startup Weekend's a great event. I know you host Verge, Terre Haute, which is awesome. Those type of events are great. Just continually meet people and always invite new people out to them too. Because sometimes it can be intimidating, but the more people you get, it kind of snowballs. So next is teammates. So startups are really hard, and I think most people understand that, but until you're really doing it, it's hard to understand how hard it really is. I know, like going into the brandery, we thought, oh wow, this is this big success. We got $20,000, but really we didn't even realize that's just the very beginning. I mean, not even scratching the surface. So having these teammates are extremely important. Startups are not only hard for the amount of business and work that it takes, but they're emotional roller coasters. I mean, you go from yay, we got into the brandery to day one, you realize you have nothing done and you only have 3 months to get everything ready to go try to pitch these investors to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, and what you have is basically a couple of pitch decks and maybe some prototypes of a product, and you go from all the way up here to down here and just all the way in between, and those teammates really kind of help you mellow you out and allow you to experience some of the success and failures with them, because it really does get lonely sometimes and it really does get hard, and you will not believe how much of an emotional support that your teammates will be. That's kind of the biggest benefit that I realized that I didn't know going into was what type of emotional support they would have. So fourth then is subject matter expertise. So you really want to become kind of a domain expert in whatever field your startup is going into. So startups don't have to always be technical, kind of like we saw with the last startup there with the brush, which is a great idea, but know what's going on in that space. Like some of the judges said, look at some of the other patents that are already out there. It's the same way with any startup. They're probably, there's an old saying that says any good startup idea, there's probably 10 really smart teams working on it. So you need to go out there and find out what the competition's doing, who the smart people in the space are, talk to people, maybe they had a business that was similar and it failed, reach out to them and find out why it failed and understand a lot of the things and the struggles that they went through. It's amazing what you'll find, how much people are willing to help and how much information is already out there if you just go look. But don't go into something blind and don't spend 3-6 months working on something and then realize that there's already something out there that's the exact same, or there's someone who worked on something similar that could have helped you figure out this hard problem that you've been working on for 2 months when one phone call is all it would have taken to get in front of these people. So don't be afraid to reach out and really know your space. Next is a social media presence. So some people are kind of on the fence about this one and say, oh, well, that's taking away from time building your business. But what I realized was Twitter was one of the real catalysts of making a lot of these connections that I found. So that Mark Cuban party just happened because I was on Twitter, saw him tweet something, and since I tweet about entrepreneurship and marketing and startups and all this stuff, I kind of had some credibility when he goes back and looks at my Twitter page and looks and see what I talk about and see that this is something that I kind of eat, live, breathe, and sleep like all day long. And it also helps people find you. So if you are out there talking about these things, generally people are going to flock to you, see what you're talking about, reach out to you, and it just comes back to making a lot of connections. Maybe you're very connected in your startup community, but there's a lot going on up in Indy, and the social media presence really helps you connect with these different groups that are all over, maybe not just in Indiana, but maybe you're meeting someone out in San Francisco, all over the world. It's really amazing what Twitter has kind of helped me meet people and be able to do. It definitely can become a distraction, but you kind of know the balance. One thing with your social media presence also is it lends credibility to you. So if you reach out to XYZ CEO because you're trying to figure out how they solve this problem or learn some experience from them, if they go on and search your name on Google and nothing comes up, you're not gonna have any credibility, they're not gonna have any reputation. If you're not on LinkedIn, they're not gonna respond to you. But if you're active on Twitter, if you're active, have a LinkedIn profile, they can kind of see your reputation, see where you've been, and see that you're legit. You have a much more better chance of them reaching back out to you and helping you. So next is mentors. So the social media presence helps with mentors as well, but I can't begin to explain how instrumental mentors have been as well. This is one thing that the brandery really focuses on, is connecting you with mentors in your space. But mentors can be anywhere from the person that you're meeting here all the way up into XYZ CEO. Really, finding mentors is extremely hard, but it's extremely valuable as well. Another thing they like to say is you never really explicitly ask someone to be your mentor. It's just a relationship that kind of happens. Your mentors, you'll find out, get a lot out of it from you, and you get a lot out of it from them. They'll be able to open up their knowledge to you, open up their network, and really just kind of be a sounding board and kind of a friend, just like those teammates are. They're really valuable, and like I said, it's hard to find, but they are out there, and really just focus on creating a genuine relationship with the people. Don't make it seem weird, don't put pressure on it. Just make it a relationship and check in with them and try to help them out, and they'll help you out as well. So next is relationship with investors. So not all startups or businesses need investors. But the ones that do, you're going to want to create those relationships early. Most investors don't invest in companies or entrepreneurs that they just met from a cold pitch they got over email. Normally they're relationships that are built up over years of time. And maybe it doesn't have to be years, but it's at least someone that they know, so you can get on their radar, so it's not this cold outreach. And they also are treasure troves of knowledge as well. They've probably sat on the boards of multiple companies, been through multiple experience, had have hired hundreds of people, have seen companies go from 0 to 100 employees, and really know a lot of the things that you're probably struggling with, and can help you with those outside of just their money. And then when you are ready to ask for the money, you already have this relationship, and it's not as awkward and it's not as weird, and you have a much better chance of connecting with them and them actually saying yes and writing a check. So lastly is just build it. So these competition, that's what it's about. It's about getting out of the building and actually doing something. So a lot of people like to talk, and have this great idea and have this invention and have these plans and everything, but until you actually get out there and build it, it's just a plan on a napkin. So get out there, hustle, meet people, and put something together. You really can't underestimate the value you'll get into actually building something and all the little problems that'll come along and how much experience you'll gain just getting out there, getting out of the building and going to events like this and working on your own business. So those are the 8 building blocks. I'm sure there are many other things out there that can help, but those are kind of the 8 that are really instrumental in kind of helping me go from a startup nobody at IU to running a decent business right now. I still wouldn't say I'm somebody, but at least I've been working on my way, and it's been a fun experience. So you can follow me on Twitter. Our next conference, so Niblets hosts conferences and events, is coming up in Memphis, April 30th through May 2nd. So what we do is bring in a bunch of entrepreneurs and investors, like the founder of Priceline.com, former CEO of PayPal, former CEO of Intuit, investors at SoftBank Capital, investors like the Sproutbox guys up in Bloomington, really a wide range from both coasts and from the heartland, and we kind of bring these people together for 2.5 days of startup excitement. We have 3 after-party networking events and 2 full days of speakers where people come and connect and get to meet each other. So the next event is in Memphis, like I said. We got a special discount code for you there, SWWV50. I'll get you $50 off your ticket. And now I'd like to open it up if anyone's got any questions. So thank you.
Nick, what do you think, what got you interested in entrepreneurship to begin with?
Yeah, so it's really kind of something that's, I would say, in my blood, I guess. Just growing up with it in my family. My grandpa had started multiple businesses. My dad started a business, and I mean, everything. My first business was selling golf balls. I lived on a golf course. I mean, I would go jump in the mud and go in the ponds and go set up a shop in my backyard when I was like in 3rd grade. And then from there, I went and sold knockoff sunglasses out of my locker through middle school. And we'd buy fake Oakleys and all these fake glasses and sell them for two for 20, 1 for 15 out of my locker, and just had all these little side businesses really growing up. And in high school, I had a eBay business, which was kind of what I say was my first real business, where we bought used Guitar Heroes straight from Best Buy, and I would turn around and sell them on eBay. And just little things here and there, and just kind of always was involved in entrepreneurship and realized that's kind of what I wanted to do, but never really had any focus at all until I kind of went to a startup weekend and realized there's this whole world of kind of tech startups, and that's really kind of where I found my place, and I was going to go full steam ahead with it. Yeah.
How do you fight against, when you are doing an entrepreneurship, you're into something, you like the idea, but then you start getting like this information that tells you that it might not be successful or economically good enough to invest. How can you, what can you do to stay motivated and continue?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things out there to test your assumptions and test your idea before you kind of spend 2 years working on it. So I mean, events like this, getting feedback, creating minimum viable products that you have assumptions, using, I don't know if you went over a business model canvas at all with them? Yeah, so kind of putting together your business model canvas and taking that feedback that you get to heart. So maybe you do find out that it isn't economically reasonable to continue with it. You just kind of have to be smart. You have to kind of weigh the judges of can I kind of move through this, and will I believe that it's going to be successful, and am I getting the results back that I want, or am I going to have to tweak it a little bit? So it's really a balancing act, and you really do want to listen to that feedback, but you also kind of want to follow your gut too. So it's really just kind of balancing the two and understanding, don't be kind of headstrong and like, I'm going to do this when everything's telling you you shouldn't, but don't give up just because the first customer says, no, I don't like this, or I want it this way, or I'm not going to find value in this. So it's really finding a good balance, test your assumptions, and follow your gut. So.
What's the hardest thing you've come across in running your current company? What are some of the pitfalls you ran into, and how'd you deal with that?
Yeah, so really one of the biggest challenges that I've kind of found is scaling our business. So we kind of plateaued at a certain amount. Our business works off of page views, kind of with the blog. So the more people we can get to the blog, the more advertising revenue we get, and then the more ticket sales we can get. So last year we kind of found out that we kind of had plateaued with our community, where we got to a certain number and we were going up, and then for 5 or 6 months we were kind of flat. So one of the biggest challenges that I've had was finding a way to reach new audiences and reach new communities. So we kind of reached a saturation point with our current community, and we had to find ways to leverage other people's audiences. So really going from something that is doing mediocrely well to kind of trying to take it to the next level was really one of the biggest challenges. And then another big challenge I found is kind of managing people. So I had never kind of been the leader or had people working underneath me. I mean, I had friends who helped out with my stuff in high school and things, but never as a true manager that had to give feedback, both positive and negative, going through negotiating salaries, making sure people are working.